Pod is powered by Parkinson's UK, the charity that's here to support every Parkinson's journey every step of the way. Wherever you're from, whatever you need, visit parkinsons.org.uk for more information.
The sun is still shining. We're clinging on to the dying embers of summer.
We are.
You're smiling a lot, Kieran. You all right?
I'm all right, actually. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it is the end of summer, isn't it? Back to school kind of feeling, right?
I don't like that. My blazer never fitted me properly. My trousers I always grew a lot. My feet would go 3 sizes during the summer.
Right.
I didn't like it going back to school.
I had to hand me down for my brother, being the youngest. You're the youngest, aren't you?
Yeah, but my brother was smaller than me.
Ah, right. Okay. You talking to your brother? You saw your brother and your family recently, didn't you?
Yeah, 2 weeks in Yorkshire, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Back to my home county.
Right.
Lovely, on the Yorkshire coast, Robin Hood's Bay.
Yeah.
Loved it, every minute of it.
It's beautiful. You took me there once and it is absolutely gorgeous there. You'd never imagine it's the UK. I mean, it sounds crazy, but the coast, I'd never been to that part of Yorkshire. This is my ignorance, but it's beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
I had a wander around the vineyard there. There's a vineyard in Robin Hood's Bay. Incredible.
What kind of wine?
It's red and white, both red and white.
Oh,
Incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing.
Is it any good?
Yeah, it tastes really nice, but it's about 20 quid a bottle, so it's quite expensive for English wine. But
And you saw your mum on the way up or the way back, right?
Yeah, my 93-year-old mother, still living independently. Yeah. Amazing.
Tell the listeners your mother's sort of claim to fame, as it were, if you don't mind.
She's the oldest living liver transplantee. She had it when she was 60. She's 93 now.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Liver transplant. Yeah, found a tumour. Went to a well women's clinic. Found a tumour on the liver. 8-inch tumour. Was given 6 months to live if it didn't get treated. Had a liver transplant, and amazing. Still going strong.
Another Clarkey defying the odds, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's over 30 years. Yeah. So a few months ago, we were walking down the street and you were talking to your brother on the phone, and you were talking about Audrey.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was wondering to myself, who's Audrey? I thought it was like a family friend or for an auntie or something. It's your mum, right?
Yeah.
But you call her by her name.
Our Audrey, yeah.
Is that a Yorkshire thing or is that a you thing?
Just as taking the mickey when we were kids, and Audrey, and she's stuck with Audrey ever since. So good old Audrey, still going strong.
She 93. 30 plus years with a liver transplant.
And I'm still going strong. I had a birthday. Thanks. Thanks for not giving me a card or a present, Stuart.
Well, I thought when you get to your age, you don't actually want to sort of, mark the event. You kind of want to forget it, right?
I know what you bought for Helen, a jug for a birthday.
Jug? She loves it. Every time guests come over now, she puts it out proudly on the table.
Look at this jug that Kieran got for my birthday. Fantastic. That's what I always wanted.
Yeah. No, so you're not quite the big one. That's next year, right? Yeah. The 70th next year.
Yes.
No, 59, right?
Yeah, 59 this year.
I was thinking about... you and I have both lived a quarter of our lives with Parkinson's diagnosis. A quarter of our life has been taken up by Parkinson's. It's crazy, right?
I never thought I'd be in this good state when I was 15 years ago.
Yeah. You're looking, sounding good.
You met family over the summer as well, didn't you?
Yeah. They came to visit, and my brother lives in France. My niece and nephew, all of them came over. Sister-in-law and my mum and dad as well. So a house full of 8 people. We went down to the New Forest, and it was lovely. Beautiful weather, nice. It was the first time I'd seen them after my operation, so they were quite...
After DBS surgery, deep brain stimulation.
Exactly. Yeah, it was about a month after I'd had the procedure, and they were quite pleasantly surprised, almost to the extent they kind of forgot I had Parkinson's, which is a bit weird. I've kind of rewound the clock in that sense. It's not obvious, my symptoms now anymore, particularly my dyskinesia. Still got a bit of a tremor, but I don't look like a Parkie anymore, which actually, in a weird way, is kind of the subject of this particular episode of the podcast, right?
Yeah, we've actually called this episode You Can't Hide Parkinson's Forever. It's the name of a blog that Rob Burley did. Rob Burley's an interesting guy, producer and editor. He's worked with some of the biggest names in political journalism, from Jeremy Paxman to Andrew Marr, Laura Kuenssberg to Emily Maitlis. Diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2021. He's an interesting guy. Well, let's hear from him. Rob Burley, welcome to Two Parkies in a Pod.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Really glad to be here.
For those who don't know who you are, just tell us a bit about your background, who you are.
Who am I? It's a deep philosophical question, isn't it? I am a journalist, an author. I used to work at the BBC for many years, where I ran things like the Andrew Marr show. I used to be a deputy editor at Newsnight, and then I sort of ran their political programmes department for a bit until the cuts came, of course, and then the heads will roll, and then it didn't really matter who we were. You were in the firing line. So I had to reinvent myself since then. Wrote a book, which is called "Why Is This Lying Bastard Lying to Me?" which is all about the inside story of Thank you for political interviewing. It's got jokes. It's not just serious politics. It's got jokes, and it's designed to keep you involved and do it in an interesting way. That actually then spawned a TV drama, which came out earlier in the year, which was
very good. Steve Coogan, right?
Steve Coogan and Harriet Walter, who played Margaret Thatcher, as you've never seen her before. I thought it was absolutely a stunning performance.
Very good, very good.
That was great. So all these things are happening. I've got another book on the go and various other things. So yes, that's me, I guess. But also, I should say I have Parkinson's disease. Right?
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
So I guess, well, firstly, I read your book and I watched the movie that was inspired by the book, and really wonderful read. I actually listened to the book because you narrate it yourself, and I love books that are narrated by the author rather than somebody else, and I thought it was really good. There's a nice piece about Parkinson's at the end as well. Maybe we'll come back to that, but I guess you're used to being on the other side of the camera or the other side of the microphone, maybe in the studio producing or whatever. Now, being the subject of attention and talking about your Parkinson's, does that feel a bit weird, being that side?
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really want to talk about the Parkinson's, generally speaking. In fact, it's sort of part of the... I mean, look, at a certain point, about a year after I got the diagnosis, I decided to go public to the extent that I'm a public figure, as in I put it on I think it was X or Twitter, whatever it was at the time, and also, so therefore, any prospective employers or whatever would know that I had it, because before that I was very scared about being written off once the diagnosis came along. So it took me about a year to make it public in that respect. But after that, really, it only came up if I chose to bring it up, because people didn't tend to ask much about it because there wasn't much out there apart from there's a brief afterward you mentioned in the book. And actually, to be honest, that sort of, as it were, plays it slightly for laughs in a sense. So I hadn't really treated it as something I was going to talk about very much or do in a very serious way. But then, as there's the way of these things, at a certain moment, which was about in July, I was on GB News, his morning political show with Camilla Tominey, reviewing the newspapers, which is kind of first for me. And after I did that, and I think this might have, Dave, I think this maybe has some resonance for you from what I've read. But there was a moment when, on social media, I was getting people saying things like, "Who's this guy? Is he drunk? Has he been on coke all night? Is he X, Y, and Z?" And then the most
Cruel
skillful
stuff.
one, cruel stuff. I mean, they weren't to know at that point what it was. There was one guy who, as I put in the piece I wrote about this, he's both quite a talented writer, but really should hope he what's in hell, wrote twitchy twat, which I thought was at least pithy. Yeah, and but I saw this, and it's like, oh, so I can't hide it anymore, and that was quite a significant moment.
Yeah, I had a thing with Ladbrokes. Ladbrokes tweeted about me. I'd been working 12 hours that day, and I was on air. It was 10 to midnight or something. They tweeted, "Dave Clark looks like he's caught a whiff of something nasty, wants to murder the person who caused it." I thought, this is wrong, So I fired back one, said, "That'll be the chronic degenerative neurological condition that eventually robbed me of the ability to walk, talk and smile. #Ladbrokes." And it was amazing. It just blew up, Alan Shearer tweeted about it. And he said, Alan Shearer said, "Two people tweeting. One is a gentleman who inspires us all. The other little prat on a keyboard, hoping for a cheap laugh. I know I stand with. You're an inspiration, Dave. Keep doing what you're doing yourself proud." So
that's lovely.
Really good.
Had you talked about it before that then, or not?
I'd gone public about it. Ladbrokes used to sponsor the darts, So
oh my god, that's
it was absolutely ridiculous.
What was the gap then between you sort of coming out and telling people you had Parkinson's and announcing it in both of your cases, actually, and then actually people sort of commenting on your symptoms? Because I think you're both alluding to it. It's not very apparent sometimes when you're initially diagnosed that you've got this condition, not least the fact a lot of these symptoms are hidden. So I think in both of your cases, it sounds like it was a few years gap in between. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, so I was diagnosed at 21. I think I went public in 22. And it was only this year, like about a month ago, that anyone ever, and I've been on a few things, I've been on a lot, podcasts, I'm on camera, I've been on various things, TV and other things. And, no one, and live things I've done, no one's ever said anything. So for this to happen at that point, but of course I look back at it and I saw why they were doing it, because I was, TV's quite, I mean, as you know, it's quite an unforgiving thing, a camera. If you you need to be in a certain position and sort of, you need to be kind of camera ready. And I was sort of doing this a little bit. Yeah. I've also done a podcast about my experience with an AI spot, and that whole other story. And I watched that back, and I was very in the zone. I was in a small booth, and I was really doing this thing of moving back and forward, and that was really what I was. That was really what people were responding to. That and a kind of, occasional hesitance with language, with words and things. So I think that was. But it wasn't. I think it was really obvious, but enough people commented to make me realise that you couldn't hide it any longer.
And you can't, and often that I say to people, the tell in Parkinson's is often the dyskinesia, that sort of jerky movement that you're talking about. I know a lot of newly diagnosed people are paranoid about things like their tremor or other motor issues, but actually often the dyskinesia, the side effect of the medication, is actually the tell, or at least it was in my case.
You were very dyskinetic though, weren't you? You were really dyskinetic, Kuenn, weren't you?
I was, yeah. So we're talking the past tense a little bit because I had my brain surgery a few months ago, which got rid of a lot of that. But yeah, I remember seeing myself back on a YouTube thing that I did, and at the time I thought that went quite well, and then I watched it back and I was like, oh my god, is that me? I look like a Parkie, and I was like, for me, that was like probably. That really hit me. That was more impactful than probably the actual diagnosis itself. Because I thought, oh, right. I actually now, when I say I have Parkinson's, I actually do. And rather than being in control of the situation where I could choose to tell people how and when I chose to, then actually now all of a sudden I didn't have that choice and it was all out of my control. And that acceptance is more than one stage in Parkinson's, and that certainly was another stage in it. It was that hit hard. Did it hit hard hearing all those comments and getting that reaction, or even just watching it back yourself? Your GB News appearance.
Yeah, that was the worst bit. I think was watching it back. I mean, look, I've been on Twitter for however many years, and I was a long time. I was one of the only people at the BBC who was willing to engage with these people and argue back against their madness. A lot of them. I mean, not by any means, but people who would just be totally unreasonable and just whatever you do was never right. But I would try. So in other words, I was well versed in the idiot on Twitter. So in a way, I didn't mind that idiots on Twitter thought things about me that much. But I just was this thing of like, oh, I've been rumbled, and it was a shock. I wasn't hiding it because I'd made it public. But I didn't want. And you say that now I'm a Parkie. I mean, I mentioned in the piece I wrote. Very early on, I went along to a meeting, not a meeting. It was like an event of a physio event, like a sort of a class. And I could not run out of that room as any class. And I needed to get out of that room because in that room I was like, "Hello to my future," and it was terrifying to me.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, right. And so that was it. So it felt like a step closer to that room. And as I said at the end of the piece, like, I know I'll have to take my place there at some point. And that's going to happen. I'm going to have to see it, accept it, embrace it, and it's going to go in a particular direction. Well, I know it's unpredictable, but it is going to do something like that anyway.
It is unpredictable, but there's a certain reality. There's certain There's certain inevitability about these things in terms of progression, right? You might not end up being exactly the same as those people, but things will get worse.
Looking back, they probably weren't all in that bad a state, really. I mean, I was just in a frame of mind where I was like, this is what I'm doing. It's probably not fair, and it's certainly not fair in any judgment on them. They're just doing the right thing for their own health. But you say that I'd like, given obviously about see about inevitability of progression and what progression looks like. I feel like it's not really something that is understood or people get, because I don't really get it. I mean, my consultant won't really tell me what he thinks the progression will be because it's unpredictable. But I mean, I just wonder, what sense do we have of that?
I'll tell you a story. When I first got diagnosed, I wanted to know what the future was like, right? I wanted to know, am I going to be like Michael J. Fox or Muhammad Ali? And actually, the clue was in the question I was asking myself, because if you look at those two people, or you imagine those two people in your mind, they actually present very differently, right? So there's a clue there. And also, the reason why the neurologist couldn't tell you, and my neurologist couldn't tell me, is that they don't know, because there is no certainty about it. But one thing that she did say to me, I remember when I got my diagnosis, she said to me, there's a good chance, like in 10 years' time, you can come back, and to the layperson, they won't know that you had Parkinson's. And I thought, that's nonsense. She's just trying to make me feel a bit better by saying something comforting. But actually, 10 years later, I was actually still in that position. I was still actually looking like a normal person, quote unquote. But the challenge I've got, and I think I've seen you write about this yourself as well, the challenge is not so much the sort of the movement stuff, it's also all the other hidden symptoms about Parkinson's. The fatigue, particularly, really.
Yeah.
That was the reason I had to give up my job a few years ago. Not the motor stuff, not the movement stuff, but the fatigue. And you suffer from that as well, right, Rob?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So actually, one of the things that it's a good thing that when I arrived, I work at Times Radio a lot now, and so and I really enjoy it there. And one of the great things they did, I said to them, I explained, look, you know what, the problem is, it might be like 11:30 in the morning, and we're working, and I might have to go to have a kip. I mean, and it'll only be 10 minutes. It might be 5 or 10 minutes. It won't be very long, and I will be rejuvenated after that. But is there anywhere I can go? So they arranged for somewhere where I could do that. So that's great. But it's like that is not available to everybody, and that is that I've got I've access to a room where I can go and lie down. And I know if you guys, if I have that thing, it's 10 minutes or less. It's really quick. Is that your experience?
Yeah, massively so. If I have a 10-minute nap or 20-minute nap, I'm fine afterwards. The dopamine seems to regenerate a bit in your brain. You just relax a bit because stress is a massive. You must have found stress. Stuff's going wrong in the studio, and you're trying to get a guest up or something, and you'd start shaking all sorts.
Well, Dave, that's a really, really interesting one, actually, because I've been thinking about, because I'm writing another piece about this, and I've been thinking about the early signs that I didn't even spot at the time. And one of them was that I was doing a show for Channel 4 where it wasn't live, but it was a big number. It was a big show and involved a lot of audience members. So, over 100 people, a lot of pressure to deliver this thing. Now, I had delivered things like that in my sleep. I could do stressful political programs, all those things. It was just what I did. And I didn't know what it was, but I just couldn't. I was feeling like stressed by things that never used to stress me. And it had this sensation, which I didn't identify as anything as a tremor, but it was almost like an internal tremor. It felt like that. It wasn't like I was shaking, but I was inside. I was just feeling like, am I people noticing this? I'm feeling really weird. And obviously, in retrospect, that's what that was. And then later, I was working with Andrew Marr on his brilliant show on LBC, which I loved launching the show. But it's on at 6 o'clock in the evening, and sometimes it's 5 o'clock, and the guest pulls out, right? And you're in charge, and you've got to go like, right, everyone, it's not a setback, it's an opportunity, and we will now find something new to do. And I couldn't really summon it up in quite the same way because I found it so stressful for myself. I was, oh no, it's not a guest. And that is not really where you want to be there, in that situation. But although I think, probably that was early on as well. So I think perhaps I've sort of, it's got a bit better. I can probably handle it knowing I just need to be a bit more, show a bit more self-care. Like you say, if that's part of it, I lie down, that kind of thing.
Back to the GB News thing. I think you'd only had 3 hours sleep before that, hadn't you? So
that's a pretty good night, isn't it?
Yeah, you're doing well.
I
had 3 hours, which I mean, no, that isn't great. I mean, I find that 4 is fine, but 3 is not very good. I was tired, but once I've been in that situation a lot since this has started, being knackered and being good, but it wasn't even bad in terms. If it was just the audio, you would have been, you would have thought it was fine. It was just a little bit of the
video.
The video
and live, yeah, exactly. I find these sorts of things, you just can't be too hard on yourself, right, Dave? You've got to be a little bit forgiving of yourself, because you aren't. It's difficult to compare yourself to before, because, like you said, you could do stuff like this in your sleep before. Pardon the pun, But now you're having to either adapt or you can't do or do it in a slightly different way. But it does sound like you are doing things slightly differently in that. Am I right in thinking that you're kind of doing less live stuff now and doing more, say, writing, for example, or podcasts and stuff like that in terms of the nature of your work has changed?
Well, a bit. That's gone on a bit. I mean, I'm actually going to be doing some live programs again back in September. So I'm going to be back on the 3 days a week, delivering a show with Andrew Neil and Stephen Sacker and Joe Coburn, people doing the Times at One, which is a big hit of presenters on it, and brilliant people. I'm going to have to deliver that, in time. I've done some of it already, but it is a challenge. But that's why I prepared myself a bit more for it. I understand what I'm coping with now, whereas those early days I didn't really know what was going on, and also the medication problems. I mean, when I was trying to do the Marr show, I was just like, what is the medication? And the Madapar that is really the fast-acting Madapar might have been a cosh to the back of my head. I was just like, boom. I was just fast asleep. Almost. At one time, I remember just falling asleep literally. So within 10 minutes, I was just flat out. And so I don't use them really now. I have them in reserve if I really need them. But I was trying to. I don't know what you guys were like, but I didn't really get to grips with the best regime of drugs and for quite a long time.
It's trial and error, isn't it? I think
a lot of error as well. Yeah,
a lot of error. Yeah. Lots of half tablets and stuff like that.
Yeah. And because it's unpredictable, you don't know. You just don't know quite how you're going to be. And
well, it was weird. When I was live on air, I kept going for 10 years with Parkinson's, and it was I was overdoing my meds in the end, which was probably the reason I quit, because I was getting ready for shows and I was taking 2 instead of 1, and but I wanted to be right, and I had this. It was like witchcraft, I'd be made up just perfectly for the show, and then I'd be running out during the end, and the producer played a big role in that. Rory Hopkins was a great producer, and he helped me with that, But I think when lockdown happened and all that, I thought time to go, But
that makes sense. Just something that reminds me. Last night I was DJing at a party, right?
Right.
So I did the thing. I was like, okay, I've got to be on the right level. So I had this in mind all day, and then probably about it turned into a long night. Probably started about 9 and finished at about 3. And I wasn't going to be sleeping anyway. So let's be honest. So I but about halfway through, because people have a tendency to ask for a request, right? About halfway through, I started to get the Parkinson's quite badly, and it's quite stressful doing that thing. You've got to be on it the whole time. And I was a bit grouchy with people because they were sort of saying, "Can I have asking for different tracks?" And I didn't want them, but it just came on me, and of course they didn't know any different. And then I was different. I was different because it was coming on, and it was anyway. And obviously at night I didn't really know what I should have taken or anything at that point. But then I was okay after that. After I had some medicine, but so I regard it, as I said in the piece, as an unpredictable. And that's what it is, and that's this mad unpredictable that rules my life.
Absolutely. It's unpredictability. I think a lot of people struggle with. Can I just take you back to your diagnosis? And so it was during COVID, right? And you ended up going private. Is that right?
Well, when do we count COVID as ending?
2021 was a shit year for you, wasn't it? Really,
it really was. It was terrible. Like one thing after another. It's like, here's your career, boom, and then it's like, here's your health, boom, and can you recover from that? I mean, basically, it was just after it was COVID. I mean, COVID in my mind, COVID is 2020, but I know it carried on after that. I can't remember that time. I find that's a foggy memory, really. But anyway, so yes, the diagnosis came in towards the end of 21. Bad year, and it had come after a sort of number of things that were clearly strange. My partner was like, "You're not lifting your feet up. Why are you walking like that?" I'm like, "Oh, really? Am I?" And then I had this, like I said, I had that event when I did this event for Channel 4, and it all felt a bit weird. And then the shaking, the sort of the tremor thing, just became very acute. So I didn't. You say I went private. Well, I didn't quite. That's not quite right. I went to my GP, who at that point said, and it's amazing to think that this is what people have had to deal with. She said, "You'll be seen by a consultant." She wouldn't say what she felt it was, but you'll be seen by a consultant in a year. So a year's time. So okay. So I had to leave and think about that. Do I go private? What do I do? And then at a certain point, it was so bad, I just went to A&E, and rocked up at A&E, shaking, and said, "I need to see somebody." And they thought I might be an alcoholic at first, and I said, "I'm not yet there, but this is probably driving me in that direction." But there was something up with me. But then I had this strange thing where I was in the ward, and then there were various tests, and there was like they put the scanner and all that stuff, and they said it's all clear, which meant it's none of those things it might be that would be terrifying right now that are going to kill you, like a brain tumor. But I didn't realise that we don't test for Parkinson's, and it wasn't all clear when it came to Parkinson's. So I was then told, "Yeah, we'll have a follow up appointment with a neurologist," and I still was feeling weird, but okay enough. And I drove there on my own. I thought it was all clear, right? So I drove there on my own, about 15 miles away or something, and then I got there and walked in, and it was the bedside manner wasn't particularly great. It was quite brutal. It was quite quickly. "Hi there, Mr. Bell. You've got Parkinson's disease." It wasn't like, it was just, there was no prep. I mean, maybe you can't be prepared for it. It just felt kind of like a massive shock. And then I remember walking out of there and driving the car, like the car felt like something I'd never driven before. It was weird.
Surreal.
It's surreal. I'm just in this strange mindset, and
it was really
yeah. It's not a nice moment. Obviously, it's a really horrible moment. I don't know what to do with it, and but luckily I got home without crashing the car, and then here we are now, 4 years on.
You didn't quite believe it, did you? You got private follow-up, didn't you?
Yeah, sorry. When we read the follow-up, so this was like 300 quid or something, like the worst 300 quid you've ever spent in your life. To go into a room to be told the shit news you had before was absolutely true, and she was even more brusque than the first one. So it was like
you come out with a great quote in the book where you say £350 should buy you a treat, not a life sentence, which is great.
Yeah. So yes, I did revisit that in the book and tell the story about. I won't spoil it for people, but it's a sort of jokey afterword and I think what that represents is I would rather think about funny things and irrelevant things than the thing itself in any kind of meaningful way.
The dead fish you're talking about, aren't you?
Yeah, the dead fish. So there's a kind of motif about fish. I mean, if you had a chance of reading it, it makes sense, I hope. But it was really me trying not to think about it. And actually, it's only this year actually that I've sort of started doing some therapy to try and have a chat about it. But really, one of the things I wanted to talk about was just how do I cope with this thing and what does it represent for me? And so it's been quite interesting.
Has that helped?
Yeah, and it turns out it's funny because they ask you, well, how do you see it? And I said, well, I don't know. It's like there's a box over there, a big box, a very strong box. Inside there is this other box, and this is like if you picked it up and lifted it out, it's like a torso, and it's like leaking stuff, and it's grim, and it has to be kept in that box because otherwise I'll see it and I have to think about it. And that was sort of how I visualized the whole thing. And I still have that, so we talk about it. So there's still the box, but it's less putrid now. It gets a bit more airing and a bit. Yeah. But I didn't. The first thing when she said we need to talk about this, I was like, I literally went like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to go there. I do not want to go deep into this because I didn't want to. But it's been good. It's been good to do it to the extent I've done it. So, yeah.
I say sometimes we're all parkied out. We've been talking about too much. I say I've had enough. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So have a week off.
And that's the end of the show.
Yeah, but you're not alone in that. Most people just don't talk about it. A lot of people hide their condition. I think to a certain extent denial can actually be quite a useful strategy, almost, at least in the early years. But the condition does catch up on you, and you have to face it at some point. You have to let it out of the box, or it comes out of the box by itself. And there's a fine line between acceptance and denial. But I think when your symptoms start to show, actually almost becomes easier because you're forced into that position. Whereas early on, you can, especially with some of the medication where they can be quite effective, your symptoms don't show so much to the outside world, at least your physical ones, and you can go on and live a relatively normal life. Your story about your diagnosis reminded me of something about, the all clear. I don't know, something similar happened to me when I went back after I was first prescribed. One of the things that they do is actually well, in my case anyway, they prescribed me some, I think it was Maripar, to see how I respond, and if I respond positively, that's the sign that I do have the condition. So when I went back, she did an examination on me, and doing my wrist, doing the finger tap stuff, and you know the routine, and she had this massive smile on her face. She was, oh, great, yeah, this is confirmation. This is a positive. She was using words like that, and I was like, what do you actually mean? There's no right and wrong way to tell people that you have Parkinson's, but at least sort of clean up the language, in terms of being a positive result. What does that actually mean? Just give it to me straight. And also I had this whole Parkinsonian thing.
Oh yeah.
Where, that confused me. So I went off Googling what that meant. There was a whole family of conditions that it could have been,
What does that mean? So it could be something else.
It could be something else. Normally there's something else. It's something slightly worse, like MSA or PSP or a rarer form of drug-induced Parkinson's or things like
motor neurons.
I don't know if motor neuron falls into that category, but the more aggressive forms of Parkinson's where they typically progress quicker and the symptoms are more severe. But it turned out to I had the regular form of Parkinson, which why often they use that, they caveat their diagnosis with that language. And then you do subsequent scans, you go on the medication, and then you get a final diagnosis. But for me, the gap was quite long in that case between that initial diagnosis and the final one. The language they use, I thought it was weird.
I think it's hard for them. It's hard for them to get it right.
It is very.
I had a sense almost from the person in my case that there was just a weariness because she probably thought, I can't win however I tell you this. There's no way you're not going to be devastated.
Absolutely.
So she'd just gone for a kind of very neutral, almost emotionless kind of delivery. I think they should probably be a bit better than that, but I do think that I do sympathise with how hard that would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially because you're dealing with everyone's got different personality. Everyone's going to take this a different way, right? Some people just go into shock. Some people go into denial. Some people want to Google it. Some people like me want to sort of just know everything and ask lots of questions. Some people just want to go into their corner and hide away for a little while and ignore it, or some people want to do something in between. So you're catering for not only different versions of the condition but different personalities as well. So
absolutely, no, completely right. I agree with that 100%.
Have you found your Parkinson's made you more productive in any way?
Yes. So I think it's important people think about this, which is that there are some upsides. Okay, so I mean, I don't know, and I don't quite understand what they are, but their roots. But I mean, there is a well-known thing about creativity being enhanced, and for me, that's been absolutely the case. I mean, I know there's also there's talk about some of the contributions some of the drugs might make, and some of the drugs that might have ill effects, like in terms of impulse control and all that kind of thing. But they also, but that can be a bad thing, obviously, and that actually needs to be looked at and monitored. I mean, that's very much what I've sought in terms of my consultants, to let keep an eye on that. But I also think it's made me more kind of, I don't prevaricate. I just do things. I just do them immediately. I don't feel like I have to be permission to ask to try and do certain things that I want to do. I just try and do it, and it's been pretty liberating in that regard. So I can't say it's all bad, and I don't quite understand why that's a byproduct of this situation, but and it's not worth it. but it's certainly a consolation.
It is a consolation. I'll speculate it's two different things. One is the dopamine, because that is the thing that controls our creativity. So we are effectively taking dopamine pills. So that's why we get a spike in our creativity. And then for me, it comes out in photography, and other people comes out in different ways, in poetry, singing, dancing, whatever it is. But also, I think just hearing you talk, it just reminds me that there is this other factor, which is, you feel like, not that time's running out, but you feel the sense of time more than you did previously, right? You're on a wasted time, opportunities, right? Sounds like...
No, yeah, completely agree with you. I'm saying that I think there are various things. I think obviously if you know that this is part of what's happening to you, time's running out, or you don't know when it might be, and so you're bound to psychologically have that effect. It's bound to have that effect. But clearly there are some other things, and there are some other aspects to that as well that maybe contribute. But I think that must be the absolutely decisive sort of underlying thing. Is that we look at life differently, don't we now?
Definitely look at life, look at people, look at friendships, relationships, work. Suddenly you kind of realize what's important and what's not, and you kind of don't have the patience for what's not, right? BBC, you talked about in your book about sort of being outside the confines and the safety net of the BBC. Those are my words. I'm ad-libbing here, but you talked about sort of revealing your diagnosis to your colleagues, and you said I think you were at Sky when this was happening, and you kind of, where's the effect that you're outside the safety net of a BBC? Am I interpreting that right? And you were kind of faced with this, telling this big corporate company that you had this condition. How did they react, if I can ask?
Sky were great. I mean, Sky. I didn't stay. I ended up not staying at Sky for a hugely long period of time. But I mean, the difference between that and the BBC is that the BBC, obviously, I was there for a long time, and I had a staff contract, so I had the safety net. And in fact, actually, I was actually still employed by the BBC on the day that I was diagnosed. I could have gone back to the BBC at that point and said, "Look, I know I've agreed to take redundancy, but this thing has happened in my life, and I need to review it now." And that actually, then you don't know what happens then, because it's not easy then in that situation to necessarily enforce like a compulsory redundancy on someone who's got a condition like this. Who knows? My decision was that would be a sort of a very negative thing to do, because it would perhaps mean
tarnish your name a bit.
Well, just yeah. I suppose it wasn't even. I don't think anyone would know, but it was more like A, it felt a bit wrong, but B, it was like, well, what would I be doing at the BBC? I'd just be there'd be someone that they'd be carrying because I happened to get this condition, and I was able to just avert the situation. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go out into the world and do stuff. But I don't really remember making a great deal of that in the book, so much as it is true. If you're on contracts rather than on your staff, that's hard, and it's like and it's harder when you think, Christ, I'm going to be written off because I've got this condition. But luckily, I've been very lucky with the people I've worked with. Particularly at Times Radio, who are very understanding. So that's okay. Yeah.
You can feel a bit like putting an incendiary device on your career when you do that, I felt that.
What do you mean? You're destroying it?
Yeah, destroying it, yeah. People go, he's got Parkinson's, he's no good now.
Yeah, completely. That was exactly my worry. But it's not true.
No.
It's not true. Yeah, exactly. What was it like, Dave, when you told was it your boss, right? And was it in person when you told them?
Yeah, they were good. But I told him, and then I went public 2.5 years later. So I told him quite early on. And then I wrote a piece in the Daily Mail, and that was quite mad. Said my whole story, and I got 6,000 messages afterwards. Quite incredible. But I felt a huge weight off my shoulders when I told people, because I've been hiding it.
And the reaction from your colleagues that you were still working with at the time, what was their reaction?
Well, some of them already knew, because people have let it slip out. You can't keep it a secret. You tell someone, and they're tempted to tell someone. So if you tell 1 or 2 people outside your close circle, they're not going to keep it a secret. Bottom line, people can't do it.
I'm dwelling on this point because, I know for a fact there are lots of our listeners that are out there that are in this situation that are scared about telling their employers. And I think the stats shows that 3/4 of fear telling people because they're worried they won't be being seen up to the job, And, I think we're all alluding to the fact that we've kind of been there, but certainly listen. Yeah, please do.
I think that Dave's an example of this, and we've seen it with things that people involved in the movers and shakers and stuff. I think it's got to be changing somewhat. Sure, I mean, I know maybe I wasn't paying much attention before I was diagnosed, but it feels to me like there is a greater understanding. There is quite a lot of discussion about it around, and interesting formats like this one, and stories like Dave's and others. I think that does an awful lot of good.
It does. Very powerful.
Demystify and make people understand that that it's not, God, the idea that suddenly, I'm not the valuable person I was because I've got this condition is just so horrible to think, and it's not true. So let's not judge people in that way anymore and be open to it. I mean, Dave, do you think you did? You wrote the Mail piece. We all knew you, so it must be some comfort to you that you managed to do some good at least.
Yeah, people were so good to me afterwards. People just came up and said, "Thanks for sharing your story," because I was in the same situation. I didn't want to tell people, and I told them because of you, So I think that was a huge thing for me, that it just affected so many people.
There was an instance of a guy in Ireland, wasn't there, who had
there's a guy
quite a profound effect on, didn't you?
I was doing the darts in Belfast, and I went out afterwards for a quick pint of Guinness. The guy came up to me and said, "Thanks for saving my uncle." I said, "What do you mean I saved your uncle?" He said he read your story. He was ready to end it all. And he saw you having a good life and continued. And your influence made him stop what he was going to do. So, quite good.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, amazing. When you start talking about things, it just makes it better for people. It
gives them confidence.
Yeah.
Tell us about this article this blog that you've written, and have I got the title right? You Can't Hide Your Parkinson's Forever, which is basically just encapsulating what we've just been talking about, right?
Yeah. So it's a piece for an online magazine, really, called Unheard, which I recommend to people. And I didn't really expect a great deal of. It was after the GB News thing. I didn't really expect very much from it, and it echoes what Dave says. There is always a massive reaction. So the piece has got a lot of attention because it was just me talking about the things we've been talking about hiding it. I mean, it's you can't hide your Parkinson's forever. It's actually a very oblique reference to an album by the band Orange Juice from the early 80s, but that's another story. His album is called "You Can't Hide Your Love Forever," so I call it "You Can't Hide Your Parkinson's Forever," And the response is huge. The response has been really, really positive, and so much so that I feel like I'm now edging into Parky land as a kind of place where I'm going to be doing things. And it's a bit. I'm not sure I'm ready, and I'm a little bit. You guys are helping. You make me feel better, but it's like I feel like very defined by this.
I'm grinning because we've both been there, and the story that you told about going to that local exercise group and. You didn't really want to be there, and you wanted to leave. And Dave and I actually had the exact same experience at the exact same group, probably about 2 years apart. Well, we wanted to run. Firstly, it was sort of meant to be a young group, a young onset group. And, I don't know about you, Dave, but I brought the average age down quite considerably by my presence. It was nobody was working, for example. In that group, and I wanted to go out. I was socialising, I was working, I was playing sports, and nobody that I saw was in that boat. I don't begrudge them for where they are and what stage of Parkinson's they're their age or anything like that. But just being young just changed the dynamics.
I think you've got to surround yourself with positive people. People who are moaning all the time are going to drag you down.
In my case, it wasn't they were moaning, or it wasn't that they were I mean, they were quite old. I did have the exam. I felt like suddenly I haven't been in a room and I'm the youngest person for quite some time, and here I was, again, but it was just that the things, like even the activities they were doing, I didn't relate to. I didn't seem to be addressing the things that I was feeling at that point. It's like, because I think it's about not being inward with your movement. It's about being outward, right? That's how I interpreted it. Because you kind of, with Parkinson, it tends to make you want to shrink into yourself a bit, walk with a shuffle, be a bit hunched over. That's the way. That's sort of the destination you see people at, and so you want to avoid getting there. But I was so far away from the point that was going to happen that I didn't need to be doing like jazz hands, which is what was being asked. So it just didn't feel aimed at me, and that's the thing. I think look, the provision is pretty rubbish anyway. I think people struggle to get good physio on the NHS.
They do. There's a very long wait list. I mean, there are stuff that you can do privately and subsidised by Parkinson's UK. And there's a lot of stuff online. It has, all these things have got better. But yeah, I know what you're describing. I know the feeling that you had, and you didn't want to be exposed to all that. But I've been doing it not even gradually. Because I didn't tell my people I had Parkinson's for about the first 8-9 years until actually I sort of met Dave and. Talking about being surrounding yourself by positive people, if nothing else, Dave is very positive, and that really helps. And he's annoying most of the time, but he's very. No, I'm joking.
Dave, can you give me? So, how long ago now was it you were diagnosed? How long now?
26th of January 2011. So 15 years I'm nearly in now.
Right. Okay. So, and how is your? So that's 50. I'm sort of 4 years. And how is your? Broadly speaking, how has it developed for you? If that's not too big a question.
Various things. My right side's not as good as it was, so I've got a problem with my foot. My foot's got dystonia, so it sort of turns out, which is quite painful. I'm more reliant on the meds now, so my windows of being good are shorter. My meds probably last 2.5-3 hours now, and they did last 4 or 5 before.
Understood,
so
yeah.
The window's getting shorter. But, I always say adaptation rather than abandonment. You've got to carry on doing what you're doing, So I work my life around being on. So if I want to go to the shops, I'll make sure I'm on. I won't go when I do occasionally go out when I'm really bad, but people think you're drunk then. It's not good, but
yes.
And you've removed a lot of stress from your life as well, which is probably
exactly. Live TV was. I did the boxing and darts for 6 years with Parkinson's. I was in the hotel room 213 nights that year. So I was travelling from like Huddersfield, some leisure centre in Huddersfield, doing the boxing one night. And then doing the darts the next. It was great. I don't know how I did it now. But
sounds glamorous though, Dave. That sounds pretty glamorous.
Oh yeah, I went to the best upholstered sewers in the land, So, but darts got big when I was doing it, and it's bigger now. But I was at the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Berlin in front of 15,000 people doing my thing with Parkinson's. Crazy, but strangely, I got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
I think that adrenaline might help in certain instances. In others, it maybe not. We get a lot of questions like that question, Rob, to both B and Dave, because I'm almost 13 years into this now. So there are not many people that have can say they've lived a quarter of their life with Parkinson's. And
so would you mind giving me a similar answer in your case?
Yeah, I can. I would caveat it by it is my answer in my journey, in that not everybody's journey is different, but pretty similar to Dave in that for the first few years, I could get away without telling people, and I was quite comfortable that it didn't show. I was able to sort of live a normal life. But my main symptom was my tremor at the time. That was, my main noticeable symptom was tremor, but I could hide that to a certain degree. And over the years, sort of increased the medication, more things into the cocktail of meds. You end up taking one medication to counteract the side effect of the other medication. Then, it goes on. At one point I was taking like 15 pills a day. It kind of like, my on time sort of was reducing all the time. My dyskinesia got really bad. I couldn't control my body movement until just very recently. I had the deep brain stimulation procedure. And it's been quite effective for me. I couldn't. It's been
a miracle for you, really, hasn't it?
It's been a miracle. I couldn't sit here talking for so long at this time of day without those things that are living inside my body. So I always say to people, my disease, it's got worse. Let's not hide the fact it has got worse. But the way I deal with it, or if you ask me on a sort of a happiness scale, if it's not too cheesy, I've kind of done that. I'm just a lot better, more content. The people I hang around with, the things that I do are all much more rewarding than the things I was doing before, And going back to where we started about, how you perceive time, for me, that's very real. I really appreciate the quality of relationships that I have now in a way that I perhaps took for granted. And, if something doesn't agree with me or someone doesn't agree with me, I just kind of try to remove that from my life. So
there's no shame either, Kuenn. You never used to tell people you had Parkinson's, did you, when we were out and about?
Until I met you.
If I'm struggling, I go, sorry, I've got Parkinson's. I'm struggling a bit. I'm not drunk. I've got Parkinson's. And people accept that. And their attitude changes to you, So I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. I don't think I've had a negative reaction to. I mean, I'm not anyway in the public limelight like you guys are, but I don't think I've actually had a single negative reaction, which I was fearing. And I went through my entire career without telling people I had Parkinson's until I was forced to give that up 4 years ago. I kind of wish I had maybe a little bit, but what I would say to people, because they are on this boat now, particularly if you're young, Set, and you're working with Parkinson's, don't fear, telling people, especially your colleagues, your employers, your boss, whatever it is, because the people are just very accommodating. In a way, Rob, I think I agree with you. 10 plus years ago, they maybe wouldn't have that level of understanding, but I think things like this podcast or other podcasts or Parkinson's is a little bit more mainstream now, and their understanding of the condition is a little bit better. I think things have got easier, and people are just generally nice, and they're very supportive. I find,
you give them a chance to be nice, and they'll be nice. Yeah,
well, exactly. Yeah, which reminds me, when you were talking about your political TV days going back a few years, when things were a lot more, let's say, long form rather than the sort of 15-second sound bites that we have, and it kind of reminded me of Parkinson's a little bit. I think Parkinson's needs a sort of long form discussion. You can't really put it in a nutshell. You can't put it in a single tweet, right? You can't put it in a single reel, a few seconds. It's a long learning curve with Parkinson's, unfortunately.
I mean, there's a good thing here, which is that things like this exist, and things like other podcasts on myriad different subjects exist to treat things with depth. And actually, funny enough, people like depth. I was taught in television, doing television in the 90s and stuff, that they don't want you to change things quickly because people get bored and they want change. I always thought it was a bit nonsense. I thought if they're into it, then they'll stay, and that's been borne out by what we've seen on podcasts. Unfortunately, we don't see on when it comes to politics, we don't see on TV. But you're right, of course, Parkinson's requires. It's got nuance, it's got complexity, and that's actually what kind of makes it interesting, apart from just something we're banging on about. We're unlucky enough to have got it.
Good to see Rob Burley's career still thriving after 4 years with Parkinson's.
Yeah, what is it you always say? Adaptation, not?
Adaptation rather than abandonment.
Yeah, the way I put it is just don't dwell on the things that you can't do. Take comfort and inspiration from the things that you can. And
I like the fact that they've given him a little area he can go and sleep in the corner.
It's nice. And the fact that he's changed his working patterns and doing, I don't know if it's a portfolio career, I don't know what you call that, but, not tied to one employer perhaps, and doing things in his own time and bit more flexible.
Loving his writing as well. His book is really, really good, isn't it?
It is really good. Read or listen as I did. And like I said, if you're sort of a political geek in that sense, there's a lot of anecdotes and particularly with the guests that he's had on his shows over the years.
If you've got Spotify, you can download the book. If you've got premium,
I didn't know that till you told me that, actually. You can. Stream the book, rather. You can listen to the book without paying. If you're paying for Spotify premium, you have access to audiobooks.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You get one a month. Yeah. So it's really good.
Yeah, because I find it very difficult to read these days. The concentration to read quite difficult. So I listen to books, and I like books that are narrated by the author.
And he reads it himself, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah. Really the chapter at the end. Maybe we can link to the chapter at the end from the show notes here, but it's really worth a listen. He talks about. For about 10 minutes, he talks about his Parkinson's diagnosis quite starkly, and almost makes a joke out of it, as we were alluding to when we were talking to Rob. But actually, I think it's, I don't know, coming round to the fact that he has Parkinson's, which sounds strange, and it took you and I probably even longer to come to that realisation. But the realisation happened when other people started noticing it, right? And that's not uncommon.
Interestingly, he's talking to someone about it as well. He's having a bit of therapy, which is good. I always think it's a good thing.
It is, but also I feel like that chat was therapy for us, for him. Maybe I don't know. It's
interesting. He had a lot of questions for us. It was a two-way thing, wasn't it?
It was, and we are a few years ahead of these people that are sort of in their first few years of diagnosis, and I think it's worth sharing experience. I'm not saying everybody's journey is the same, because but we can speak from a point of experience, let's say. And I thought the end, putting it in the box analogy was quite poignant, right? I mean,
the corpse,
the thing, the monster, whatever it is, put it in the box and don't open it up until you have to, I guess. At some point you do have to, and it takes different people with different lengths of time to get to that point. Some it's instant, some it's years. Like we keep saying on this podcast, every journey is unique to the individual, right? There's no right and wrong. But I'm glad Parkinson's diagnosis is being talked about more publicly in wider society. He alluded to it, right?
Well, people like him who can write really well and get publicity in papers and blogs and stuff. It's great, isn't it? So we'll do a link to that blog. Yeah,
and he's doing a follow up with the Times apparently, focusing on the same themes. Yeah, I did think like the way the flack he got must have really. If I got that sort of flack on Twitter or social media, whatever it was, and I say flack because some of it was really quite cruel, it would have destroyed me. And I wondered, he's actually seems to be hardened to this, right? Because of his job, because of his profession, because he's a seasoned tweeter or whatever the right terminology
X
is.
or whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah. Because if that was me, I'm really... You're quite sensitive about comments and people observing your symptoms as well, right?
I am, but I've developed rhinohide over the years. I don't really let it bother me now. I used to. I don't bother now. I don't care, If people look at me, I say, I'm sorry, I've got Parkinson's. So you have to apologise.
What's a phrase that we keep using? Be Parky and...
proud.
Yeah, exactly. Right? But it takes a lot, right? It does take a lot to sort of, when people comment, or even if they don't comment, but you can see them looking at you.
Look up and down. They look at your legs down. They look up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Not good. By the way, our next episode is 50, half a century.
Wow.
So we'd like people to put voice notes in saying what the favourite podcast we've done so far is and what the favourite clip is. So if you've got a favourite clip you want to listen to, we're doing a best of.
Yeah. All right, yeah, so a best of. Yeah, that's a good idea. So hello at twoparkiesandapod.com.
Send us a voice note if you can.
It's the best way to send us a voice note. Or if you're struggling with email, you can reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram. Probably best way to send us the other way to send us a voice note. But we'd love to hear people's voices. I know not everybody's comfortable with that, but I don't know. There's something really personalises it.
Yeah.
But we love all your messages, whether it's verbal or not. Feel free to reach out to us.
What's your favourite clip over the years?
Over the years, you know what? I was watching back the Mr. Whippy clip, which where you and I got the hysterics, and I don't know. If I need a pick me up, I'll go back to the sort of moments of laughter that really works for me. There was another moment of laughter when we did the creativity episode, I think, when we were starting the podcast, and I can't remember what happened, but we just got the giggles basically. And I like that because I really think humour is a very, very effective technique to sort of alleviate that stress and distract you. Or rather, distraction more generally is an effective technique to manage some of your symptoms. And I just like a good laugh. I like a good giggle, basically. Yeah. There's so many episodes. What about you? What's been your favourite?
I think Baz Bloom, when we did it live at Parkon. We're back at Parkon this year, so that should be good.
We are back in Parkon. Not Baz this time, but we've got another great guest for you, right?
Yeah, Laura from Neuro Heroes is coming on to teach us how to do things we couldn't do before, like get your socks on and stuff.
Yeah. Laura from who was in the episode called...
Get the balance right, it's called.
Yeah, Getting the Balance Right, thanks. So I'm looking forward to that one. Parkon is now sold out. It's sold out in the first week, apparently. So... but there's in person, but there's still online stuff is unlimited. So feel free to join online. So Parkon is the 24th and 25th of October. If you can't watch it live, then it's available on YouTube after, so don't worry. And there's a lot of great guests there. I'm really looking forward to it. It's up in Birmingham this time, and it should be good. There's a few other events going on as well around walking events. But before we do sort of walking events, shall we have a few people doing amazing things? There's a bit of a tie-in here, right?
Let's do that.
People with Parkinson's do amazing things.
A massive Two Parkies in a Pod thank you to those of you who decided to donate your brain to the Parkinson's UK Brain Bank. There's been a big increase in the number of pledges after our last episode. See the show notes if you want to do the same.
It's quite remarkable, isn't it, Dave? People are just donating their brains to Parkinson's. great. I'm really quite humbled by that.
Yeah.
It really is quite something that people...
It's the biggest gift you can give, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Part of you, know.
Yeah. You can also donate money to the brain bank if you don't want to donate your brain, or in addition to...
Or do both.
Or do both, exactly, yeah.
People with Parkinson's do amazing things.
Congratulations to everyone who took part in the Parkinson Scottish Open table tennis competition. There were more than 80 players from the home nations, as well as Germany, Spain, Austria, Sweden and Malta.
Great. Was there a winner?
There probably was, but I don't
You don't know.
It's about taking part. It's about taking part.
Yes.
People with Parkinson's do amazing things.
And a message here from Mark Pritchard. He said, we're organising a team of 20 to ride London to Brighton.
Cycling.
Yeah, on
Yay.
September the 14th to support Parkinson's UK. An Oddballs Foundation, spreading awareness of testicular cancer. Raised £9,000 already this summer through various events. We're hoping to hit a £10,000 target. The ride culminates in a fundraising event on Brighton Front, where we're having local bands, raffle, charity auction, etc. Want as many people as we can to join the fundraising. Welcome home the cycling team. We'd appreciate a shout out on Two Parkies in a Pod.
Balls to Parkinson's. Big shout out. Well done, guys. Yeah, so just to recap on the walks for Parkinson's in September, because there's 2 events, one by Parkinson's UK and one by Cure Parkinson's. On Sunday, the 7th of September, there's a walk at Battersea Park, which I understand might be sold out. I'm not sure. Just check. Depending on when you click on the link that we're going to include in the show notes, it might be sold out. But if you're attending, then please do come and say hello, because Dave and I will both be there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
I'm really looking forward to it. We've been there the last couple of years.
Yeah,
It's been brilliant.
third time
Really good,
running,
really
yeah.
good event. So see the sights of London, have a wander around.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Lovely, feel good. 1.5 miles you can do, or
Yeah,
or
there's
a lot more.
two distances.
Yeah.
And on Sunday the 28th of September, Cure Parkinson's are doing their own walk to commemorate, it's difficult to say, isn't it? To celebrate, let's say, their 20th anniversary. And it's replicating the walk that Tom Isaacs did, starting off at...
4,500 miles around the UK coast, isn't it?
I'm not sure they can do that all on Sunday, but it's starting off at least on the...
The hell of a walk if you do that in a day.
Yeah, I'm just reading it here.
I'd chip in for that.
I think it's starting at the Millennium Bridge. Anyway, I'm going. Helen's going as well. Are you going to come, Dave?
Yeah, I think I might be around. I might be around for that. So yeah.
Be a bit more excited about it. You going to come for that, Dave?
Yeah, I'll be there. Hopefully, yeah.
Great. Come on, Dave. Come on. You going to come for that, Dave?
Yeah, I'll be there. Brilliant.
Yay! All right. Yeah, let's do a serious one of that. Yeah, that should be fun. You going to come, Dave?
Yeah, I should be there. Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Good.
Brilliant day.
Well, hopefully we'll see some of you at those events over the next few months. I think that's all we have time for right today, Dave.
Yeah, it's been a busy show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
See you
you
soon.
See you soon.